The Nawab Indian Restaurant, West Houghton, Bolton. Written by Weridullah. Narrated by Frankie Denham. My father owns an Indian restaurant in West Houghton, Bolton for over 30 years now. Back in the day when he opened the restaurant, the Nawab Indian Restaurant was the only Indian restaurant in that specific area at the time. The area, West Houghton, Bolton in Manchester, is more like a village where everyone kind of knows each other and they follow old traditional values. I must admit, West Houghton has grown so much bigger since then, and there are so many more Indian restaurants and takeaways within the area. But my father takes great pride in the fact that he was the first Indian restaurant takeaway for West Houghton. When my father first came to West Houghton, it was a much different place, and the laws were different, and he has served a generation which is now old. There were some pictures of my father back in the old days, and he does look different. My uncle also works in the restaurant, and both my uncle and father ran the restaurant with passion and the drive to be successful. Me and my siblings used to be taken to the restaurant, and it was always busy. I would watch my father and uncle run the restaurant. They also had other workers who were not part of the family, and back then the two chefs were different. I started working for my father around the age of 12, and he brought over to this country many more of my Bangladeshi cousins from Bangladesh to work in the restaurant. The two chefs were now my two cousins from Bangladesh, and they were quick learners and hard workers. He also brought over a cousin to be a waiter, so when I started working for my father, there was me, my father, uncle, a cousin waiter, two cousin chefs, and one extra waiter who wasn't blood related, and a chef in the kitchen who also wasn't related. I remember that time clearly, and boy was it one hell of a crazy era. Every weekend my pockets full of pound coins from all the tips, and it was always busy from top to bottom. I was also an introvert when I was younger, which meant I preferred to be quiet and alone. So with all these people in my father's restaurant, I did feel a little dizzy and anxious. I found it hard to adjust and mingle with the customers, and at the same time, for the very first time, I saw what adults are really like, because my only perception of adults at the time were in school. And even though I was an introvert, I did enjoy seeing people enjoy themselves, drinking beer and just socialising. As a restaurant, we were blessed, with many great customers who were great people inside and out, and they were good friends with my father and the restaurant itself. And the whole area of West Houghton, Bolton knew about us and my father. I have to admit though, I did find it tiring at the age, but as you see, being 11 or 12, I didn't understand the prospects of a restaurant at first. I mean, my father brought me to work in the restaurant, and he wanted me to see what the world was really like, and how he made a living to pay the bills, and he worked hard. As years went by, I started to become more comfortable, and I started to socialise with the customers and smile more. I found the work easy now, and there was always something to do, but I was used to it by now. I was joking around more, and I didn't mind working with my father. It gave me extra income, and I was working for my pocket money. From 12 to 19 years of age, the business always made good money, and the people always came and ordered a takeaway. Then the economy collapsed, and my father didn't expect for a country like England to be affected, as there had been many collapses within the economy in the past. This time though, the whole world would be affected. Businesses in West Houghton, Bolton were closing down, especially pubs, and gradually my father's restaurant started to lose business. Never in my father's life did he expect something like this to happen in our lifetime. My father was worrying now about the business. People in West Houghton didn't have the money to spend as much as they did in the past, and from a full house, we had no one inside the restaurant. Some aspects can be my father's fault, like not changing the decor of the restaurant or joining online, as more people go online now to find a restaurant and takeaways. But mainly, it was the economy. You can almost feel the mood of the area. It was depressive, and people have had enough. Everything was looking bleak. The restaurant was dead, which I had never experienced before at the age of 20 to 21. And my father had now bought the restaurant fully, which he owned 100%, and for this to happen, it's just bad luck. My father and all the workers were all quiet, with no one coming in and nothing to do. My father knew sooner or later he would have to let some people go, and that wasn't an easy thing to do. One quite dead day in West Houghton, when not one soul was outside, my uncle heard something in the shed where we kept all the meat produce. My uncle went into the shed and he checked to see what it was. He shouted for my father. My father ran inside the shed, and then all of the chefs went inside, and I went inside. What we saw that day would do so many things for us. It was a butterfly man. A little description of this butterfly man. He was about 5 foot and looked ragged and extremely skinny, and his wings were wrinkled badly. My father wanted to call the cops, but the butterfly man begged us to not tell anyone. Then the butterfly man spoke. This restaurant used to have a lot of positivity, but now it has only negativity. I could help you with that. I can make it busy. That's it. That's exactly it. I could feel it, and it's not what it used to be, and I can make it what it used to be. Now, my father believed in God and other superstition, and as a Muslim, he always had the faith that things would change, and he believed the butterfly man was a sign from the heavens above. The butterfly man wanted to be hidden somewhere within the restaurant, and we put him in the attic of the restaurant. Then the butterfly man said that a week from now, our restaurant will be filled with people, and my father was over the moon, and so was my uncle. It felt good to finally feel some positivity, and to see my father and uncle as well as the other workers smiling for once, as hope had been lifted. A week went by, and even I was surprised to see the restaurant full of people. It was like how it used to be when I was 12, 13, 14, 15 and 16 years of age, until around 20 to 21 when the economy hit us. My father was over the moon, and business was booming once again, and my pockets were full of pound coin tips. We all thought we had escaped the worst. Now it was my job to check on the butterfly man in the attic upstairs. Now we also served people in the second floor, and I was surprised that not one customer complained about the noise that was being made in the attic. I checked on the butterfly man, and he had grown now to 5'5". I was looking incredibly healthier. He came down from the attic when there were no more customers, and my father was pleased to see that he was fine now. As the weeks went by, the waiter Taurus and the chef Imtiaz, who were not related to us but worked for us for many years, were complaining that they couldn't stop thinking, dreaming or constantly seeing butterflies in their head. It was really bothering the both of them, and they were sure that it would pass, but we were worried for them. Then I remember on a Saturday night, it was busy, and the butterfly man was in the attic, and has grown now to 5'9". I like to do this thing where I would stand in the middle of the room and just kind of observe all the customers. I don't know, I just like to observe and take in the atmosphere of their conversations. I was frightened though, when I was concentrating in the moment to find that all the customers were not speaking in their normal language. What I mean is, they were all talking gibberish, but I couldn't make it out, and nor can anyone else hear this. You had to really concentrate and focus to really hear it. Then I noticed on each of their necks was a butterfly tattoo. Then Taurus, one of our long-time waiters, needed to go outside as the butterflies in his head kept on bothering him. Same with Imtiaz the chef, and we gave them something to drink, and a couple of minutes outside they felt much better, but they could still hear the butterflies in their head. After the people left, I went upstairs and I let out the butterfly man in the attic, and he was looking stronger and happier. I told him about the problem Imtiaz and Taurus had of hearing and dreaming about butterflies constantly, and the butterfly man promised me he doesn't know anything about it. Then my cousin waiter, Shuel, downstairs in the restaurant started complaining of butterflies in his stomach, and I went down to check on him. He drank some water which helped with some of the feelings of butterflies in his stomach, but it was still there in his stomach. So, 3 of our workers were suffering something to do with butterflies, and we have a butterfly man in our attic. I went up to my father and he reassured me that everything will be okay, but as weeks went by, Taurus, Imtiaz and Shuel's condition were becoming worse and worse to the point where they couldn't work properly and were taking many days off. The butterfly man was nearly 6 foot now, and he was looking more muscular than ever. I couldn't stop but observe the customers' conversations, which were just gibberish, but no one else could hear it. Every customer that came in had a butterfly tattoo, and I remembered something. In the attic, the butterfly man himself has a butterfly tattoo in his neck. One time, when everyone left, the butterfly man wanted to help out with the cleaning, and he was with me. I was cleaning all of the knives and cutlery. The butterfly man accidentally cut his hand. We had a first aid kit and gave him plasters to cover and heal it up. Then the next day when the customers arrived into our restaurant, each customer had the exact same cut on their hand, similar to the butterfly man. After the business was finished, I went upstairs to the restaurant attic to see the butterfly man. I told him what I was thinking, that the customers were not human, but they were all him. He sighed and told me to not tell my father, and that everything will be fine, and that they were being paid and everyone is benefiting. The 3 workers though that were suffering from butterfly dreams and butterfly stomachs were becoming much worse, and they didn't look so well. Then as months went by, both Imitaz and Taurus wanted to leave the restaurant because they couldn't take it anymore. My father and uncle were both shocked and tried reasoning with them to come back. We lost 2 great workers that had worked with us since the start, and it was hard adjusting without the 2 of them, but we managed. Shuel, on the other hand, my cousin waiter, started to show signs of mental problems. He was talking to himself, and he couldn't take the butterflies in the stomach. Eventually, Shuel was not mentally fit enough to work, and my father had to send him back to Bangladesh. To this very day, he still talks about the butterflies in his stomach. The butterfly man could be heard singing from the attic, and he was so happy, and I told my father with everything that had happened to us, with Taurus, Shuel and Imtiaz. It's all connected with the butterfly man, as they never had this problem before, only when we met the butterfly man. My father then had to confess something to me, and even my uncle. They too started to dream about butterflies, and they couldn't get butterflies out of their heads. Then, after much discussion and thinking, my father wanted to close the link between us and the butterfly man. My father went upstairs and opened the attic, and with me and my uncle and the 2 cousin chefs behind him, he told the butterfly man that he didn't want his help anymore. The butterfly man warned my father that he would lose all business, and my father didn't care anymore, as health was more important. As weeks went by, our restaurant became dead, and my father and uncle were much better. He checked upon Taurus and Imtiaz, and they were fine, but they didn't want to work for us. The butterfly man gradually became smaller, and was looking much weaker now, and to be honest, I preferred it that way. He's still up there in the attic. Sometimes you can hear him making noises, and sometimes you could hear the footsteps. Here's the address to the restaurant: 45 to 47 Market Street, West Houghton, Bolton, BL5 3AG.